The global mecha awakening is here. Whatever vehicle is registered to your name, that's exactly what you transform into. And depending on the condition of your vehicle, your fate is sealed. Some become hyper-fast sports cars. Others become unstoppable off-roaders. Even the animals, they all mutate into solid steel. They turn into vicious mechanical beasts that attack on sight. As for my broke ass, I just turned into a flimsy little e-bike. I managed to scrape by for 10 years, dodging countless attacks from those metal monsters. But with such a pathetic start, I still ended up dying, crushed to pieces by heavy-duty trucks. But now, against all odds, I brought my memories with me, and traveled back to the exact day before the apocalypse. So, I immediately grabbed every last penny of my savings, and rushed straight to a heavy truck dealership. The salesman saw me and immediately hurried over. But my eyes were completely glued to a massive heavy-duty truck in the corner. A striking crimson body, 4 meters tall and 12 meters long, with a twin steer, quad-axle setup. Each tire was practically as tall as a grown man. Just one glance gave off this overwhelming, dominant vibe. I looked at him and said, "I'm buying this rig." "Wow, you've got a fantastic eye, sir. This is from our brand new line, the Tyrant Dragon. It rocks a V8 engine and weighs a solid 10 tons. Towing 30 to 40 tons is an absolute breeze for this beast. Top speed hits 110 kilometers per hour. The asking price is $680,000, but you can drive it off with a minimum down payment of just $160,000. Done. I'll take it." Hearing that, the salesman sprinted off to get the paperwork sorted. As for me, I wasn't sweating it at all. As soon as the title was in my name, I'd be transforming into a mecha tomorrow anyway. Who the hell is gonna pay back that loan? The moment I got the keys, I drove straight to an auto shop. "Hey boss, I need you to forge a giant blade for me. 8 meters long, 1 meter wide. Sharpen it on one side until it's razor thin. And I need it done today." The owner looked at me like I was crazy and was just about to kick me out, when I slapped 30 grand in cash right in his face. His attitude did a complete 180. "I'll have it ready for you by tonight." With that, the boss immediately got to work. He grinded away until 10 p.m. before it was finally finished. A massive blade weighing 800 pounds. It was styled after a classic Tang Dynasty longsword. The blade forged perfectly straight, with an angled tip that looked absolutely wicked. I loaded the sword into the back of the truck, went out for a massive feast, and then just laid back in the cabin to sleep, quietly waiting for the apocalypse to begin. In my dreams, I felt my body sinking, plunging into an endless, suffocating darkness where I couldn't move my limbs. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. I have no idea how much time passed, until my eyes finally snapped open. What greeted me was the heavy, grinding sound of shifting gears. I looked down, and realized I had already morphed into the monstrous heavy-duty overlord. Man and machine, perfectly fused into one. I was the truck, with just a single thought. My massive wheels started rolling forward, hitting the brakes, flashing the headlights. Every single action responded instantly to my mind. Then, the Tyrant Dragon let out a deafening mechanical roar. First, the massive cab reared up, and the drive shafts began spinning wildly. The giant wheels retracted, slamming into place, as a pair of colossal mechanical legs touched down. My torso shifted and locked. My head formed and deployed. In just a matter of seconds, I went from being a heavy-duty truck to a towering, upright transformer, gleaming in brand new crimson armor, with a massive, wicked blade slung across my back. So, is this what real power feels like? In my miserable past life, I was just a fragile little scooter. I never knew what true strength was. But right now, my blood is absolutely boiling. I can feel every ounce of this terrifying, unstoppable power surging through my metallic veins. I stand as tall as a 5-story building, yet my movements aren't clunky or slow in the slightest. Just as I was getting used to my new metallic body, a desperate scream for help echoed from the distance. The mechas around here are starting to wake up, and the mutant steel beasts are already closing in. Even people's pet dogs have doubled in size, their bodies turning completely to solid steel. They've gone totally rabid, biting anyone in sight. The Azure Dragon Empire has 1 billion people, with about 1 car for every family of 5. That means there are 200 million mechas at most. 800 million are still ordinary flesh and blood, but as for the animals? God knows how many there are. One thing's for sure though, they outnumber the mechas by 100. maybe even 1,000 times. Or even 10,000 times. Right now, you can see car mechas desperately rushing back to their homes, clashing violently with the steel beasts springing out along the way. I glanced back, and saw a 2-meter-tall, one-armed mecha going head-to-head with a steel dog. Looks like the guy used to be a tricycle. Right now, one of his legs is clamped tight in the dog's jaws. Sparks are flying everywhere. He's a goner. So, I instantly shifted into my heavy truck form, floored the gas, and smashed right into them. That 1-meter-tall steel hound got crushed cleanly in half under my wheels. The tricycle guy was dripping with cold sweat. Thanks, man. You saved me. It's not safe out here. Get out of here, fast. After saying that, I transformed back into my 15-meter robot form, then reached into the dead hound's chest, pulled out a glowing green crystal, and tossed it right into my mouth. This is the steel dog's power source. It completely replaces their old heart. And it's also the absolute only way for us mechas to evolve. Devouring crystals to fortify your own body. Pretty soon, everyone in the world is gonna know about this secret. So I have to boost my strength right now while I still can. With that in mind, I sped straight toward the city center. Because there's a huge zoo over there, packed with massive, dangerous animals. Reaching an old intersection just outside the downtown area, I suddenly spotted a pack of steel creatures over 2 meters tall. Wolves, brawling with a whole group of car mechas. There were about 7 or 8 of those steel wolves, and over 20 car mechas. Seeing that, I instantly shifted into my combat form, and charged straight into the wolf pack. My massive size and brutal fighting style showed those other mechas exactly what the art of violence looks like. In less than 3 minutes, every single one of those 7 or 8 steel wolves was dead. I ripped out their power crystals and swallowed them down. A warm rush of energy coursed through my body. I could feel myself getting even stronger. My metal skin toughened up tremendously. About 10 minutes later, I finally hit the downtown area, and at a glance, it was just a wasteland of mecha and steel beast corpses. Tigers, bears, elephants, all the heavy hitters were here. On the mecha side was an entirely yellow painted convoy. A solid lineup of heavy-duty trucks, all pushing 10 meters tall. Among them were excavators swinging massive drill arms, and bulldozers packing incredibly huge fists. But the absolute center of attention was a towering, 20-meter-tall yellow behemoth. It was a colossal mining dump truck. Anyone in this city rich enough to afford that monster. I already knew exactly who it was. That guy right there. He's Huang Quan, the man known in the future as the land god of war. He's an absolute powerhouse. If I don't get on his good side now, when will I? Seeing him locked in a brutal fight with an 8-meter-long crocodile, I immediately drew my blade and charged in. With a blinding flash of white steel, my blade sent that crocodile flying 4 or 5 meters through the air. Before it even hit the ground, Huang Quan watched my crimson figure leap upward, smashing right through the croc's stomach with a few brutal punches. Then, I ripped something out and swallowed it whole. Oh man, jackpot. I hit the absolute jackpot this time. That fist-sized power crystal had me patting my stomach in deep satisfaction, as the armor on my chassis literally began to glow. This single crystal packed more energy than all those steel wolves I killed combined. Seeing how viciously I fought, Huang Quan called out, "Let's take out the rest of these steel beasts first. We can chat after this." With that, I threw myself right back into the bloodbath. But honestly, I wasn't really there to help them fight. Right now, I'm the only one in the world who knows that these power crystals trigger evolution. Before I even got here, these guys were already throwing down with the steel beasts. Right now, there's about 7 or 8 massive animal corpses just lying on the ground. Free loot is free loot, right? Thanks for the meal, boys. I'll come help you guys as soon as I soak all this up, I muttered to myself, while I started digging out the crystals. And after swallowing every last one of them, my entire vibe shifted again. The red armor on my chassis deepened into a dark, blood red. All those little exposed gears and wires from before just vanished. My whole frame looked way more streamlined, and a hell of a lot more brutal. Hold on, brothers, I'm coming. I dashed forward, throwing a punch that ripped right through the air. An elephant weighing dozens of tons got completely floored by that single strike. Huang Quan stared at the knocked-out mecha beast, his face totally frozen in shock. What are you staring at? Get in there, aim right for the heart. Huang Quan was still processing what just happened, but he quickly snapped out of it, unleashing full firepower and jumping back into the fight. The punch marks on the elephant just kept multiplying. A flurry of blade strikes sliced right through its massive tusks. Huang Quan brutally hammered the elephant's chest with dozens of heavy punches, looking like he was about to smash right through it. I lunged from behind and stabbed my blade completely through its body. "Go help the others," I told him. "I've got things covered here." Saying that, I drove my fist straight through the elephant's heart. I casually ripped out its power crystal, and gulped it down in less than a second. That's another massive payout for me. Then, without a second thought, I immediately sprinted toward the next battlefield. In my past life, we mecha warriors didn't figure out the true power of these crystals until a whole month into the apocalypse. So, I had already made up my mind to milk every last drop of advantage out of Huang Quan. In this disaster, your base vehicle basically dictates your absolute power level. No matter how decked out a bicycle is, even if it evolves a dozen times, how strong could it possibly get? My heavy-duty semi-truck already places me straight into the top tier of absolute powerhouses. A regular car could upgrade for an entire lifetime, and that would still just be his starting line. But honestly, compared to Huang Quan, I still fall short. This guy is just an absolute freak of nature. A mining dump truck weighing hundreds of tons? One punch from that thing, and who the hell could even survive it? He is absolutely at the peak of the apex. You could search the entire globe and barely find anyone as wildly overpowered as him. If he keeps upgrading into the late game, seriously, who could even challenge him? Half an hour later, the battle finally wrapped up. Huang Quan yelled out, "Fall back, brothers. Let's move," but I quickly stepped up and said, "You guys go on ahead. I'll cover the rear." Huang Quan was an absolute mess, completely moved by my sacrifice. "You're a good brother. Please, take care of yourself. We'll be waiting for you up ahead." With that, Huang Quan led the rest of his battered crew away. The second they were out of sight, my heroic act completely dropped. Sure, the steel beasts were dead, but there were still quite a few corpses laying around that hadn't been looted yet. After I swallowed down those extra crystals, the glowing energy lines on my chassis became even sharper. It actually felt like some kind of ancient crest was about to slowly emerge right on my chest plate. My entire mecha form was getting seriously refined. Those bulky tires on the back of my heels? Completely gone. They were replaced by sleek, fiery red steel armor. And my head module was actually starting to form the rough shape of human facial features. Mechanical muscles were bulging out, and my heavy frame even developed a distinct, agile waistline. My brute strength had shot up dramatically too, but right now, it was still nowhere near enough. In my past life, to become a true, elite mecha warrior, you had to evolve at least 5 separate times. And that was just to barely scrape by and survive this apocalypse. While I still have this massive advantage in future knowledge, I have to accelerate my evolution and become a true mecha warrior as fast as possible. With that thought, I folded my massive frame back down into my heavy vehicle mode. There was no way I was going to stop leeching off a powerhouse like Huang Quan anytime soon. But as I rolled forward, I realized the atmosphere around here had suddenly turned terrifyingly quiet. Aside from Huang Quan, the rest of the heavy trucks all looked completely torn. From what they were saying, it turned out Huang Quan was heading out to save a buddy of his. But nobody around him was willing to tag along. The battle we just had was absolutely brutal, and they had all seen it with their own eyes. "Boss Huang, it's not that we don't have your back, man, but I've got elderly parents and little kids to look after." Panic gripped Huang Quan's heart, and he yelled out, "I'll add another 500,000 for each of you. A cool million if you die. You guys know exactly who I am. That money will absolutely make it to your families, I swear it." "We're so sorry, Boss Huang. We just can't risk our necks for you this time." "I'm terrified, man. I don't even want the money you promised us. My family might not be rich, but with the crazy powers I've got now, making a quick buck shouldn't be a problem." That totally flipped a switch in the heads of the rest of his crew. Yeah, he's totally right. Even hauling bricks all day would make us a killing. Just as Huang Quan hung his heavy head in total defeat, I stepped right up. "I'll go with you. Are you serious? Man, you're a brother for life now," Huang Quan said, his voice full of gratitude. Meanwhile, I was already quietly scheming in my head. In my past life, when Huang Quan made this trip to Qingzhou, he stumbled upon an absolute god-tier artifact. A superheated, massive greatsword, and it was exactly because of this blade that he became completely invincible among his peers, effortlessly crushing enemies way above his own level. If I can snatch that artifact up first, I'm absolutely destined to become a living legend this time around. But we hadn't even made it a few steps before Huang Quan started feeling completely starved and totally drained from that massive fight. After running it through his absolute meathead of a brain, this idiot figured that since he was basically a transformer now, he obviously needed gasoline to fill his stomach. So, without another word, he dragged me straight to a local gas station. He grabbed a whole barrel of 98-octane gas and just started chugging it like crazy. Why do I feel like whenever I take a step, my stomach is just violently sloshing around? That ridiculous sight almost made me laugh so hard I'd leak my own motor oil. I immediately told him that maybe he just hadn't digested it properly yet, and he just needed to jog it off. Right on cue, a few giant, metallic roosters came aggressively sprinting over from the distance. Whenever these steel-mutated freaks spot a vehicle, they see red and instantly swarm it in a frenzy. I watched as a 1-meter-long metal rooster got completely swatted. Swatted to death like a pesky fly by Huang Quan. I laughed and told him that maybe munching on some chicken would actually cure his hunger. Then I grabbed one of the steel roosters and started ruthlessly tearing into it. Seeing me go at it, Huang Quan figured he had no other choice. So he risked totally shattering his teeth and started aggressively gnawing on the metal bird. After forcing down the entire heavy steel rooster, Huang Quan's hunger instantly faded quite a bit. But right as he was about to happily share the good news with me, he noticed that I had only ripped out the rooster's power core. I hadn't touched a single scrap of the actual steel body. The very next second, realizing how stupid he looked, Huang Quan started absolutely screaming his head off at me. "You son of a bitch. You absolute fraud. Not only did you make me chug raw gasoline, but you secretly scarfed down all those power cores behind my back. No wonder you shot up in size." When Huang Quan saw me this morning, I was only 15 meters tall. My frame was pretty stubby, and my massive wheels were still completely exposed. But taking a much closer look now, I was well over 16 meters tall. My paint job was totally vibrant, and my new build was insanely solid. Most of the truck features had completely vanished from my body, making me look exactly like some badass mecha straight out of a movie. It was a total no-brainer that power cores were the real food for us mecha hybrids. Even though Huang Quan was still pretty pissed off, he couldn't hold back his burning curiosity, and asked me if every single steel beast out there had one of those. "It's not just the steel beasts, man," I replied. "Even we've got those power cores inside of us. The crystal is basically the animal's heart. It doesn't just protect them, it also strengthens their bodies. Plus, the stronger the steel beast is, the bigger its power source." After laying all that out, I stared right at him. "Lao Huang, now that you know all these secrets, do you still want to stick with me? The hell are you talking about? You freaking ate so many of my crystals. Don't even think about ditching me until you pay me back." Hearing that, I burst out laughing, and ran up ahead to lead the way. I knew he wasn't scared of getting scammed. He was just scared of getting screwed over for no reason. I'd been helping him for free this whole time, so he was probably a bit creeped out. Along the way, Huang Quan asked me a few things about evolution. And I came clean about everything I knew, including how, after 5 evolutions, a massive black car mark would appear. Looking down at my chest, the car mark was already 3/5 of the way there. Huang Quan's mouth twitched instantly. As we moved, the effects of the apocalypse were getting worse and worse. It was high noon, but the sky was completely choked with dark clouds. No one knew that, aside from the animals, even the clouds themselves were turning into solid steel. Without sunlight, the plants wouldn't survive, and the temperature was going to drop day by day. In a month at most, the surface temperature would plummet to -20 degrees. With the power out and water cut off, people wouldn't be able to stay warm or grow any crops. Once the food ran out, ordinary people wouldn't last long at all. As for why those incredibly heavy clouds didn't come crashing down, nobody knew. In my past life, someone managed to punch a hole through the clouds and sent a group of elite fighters up there. But they were never heard from again. A few hours later, the sky had gotten noticeably darker. The black clouds were blocking the sunlight, but the sun hadn't disappeared entirely. During the day, under the intense glare, the city was cast in a sickly yellow hue, and we could barely make out our surroundings. But at night, it was pitch black. Just as we flipped on our high beams to keep moving, a little electric scooter suddenly zoomed out from up ahead. The guy on it was bawling his eyes out, speeding right toward us. Right behind him was a massive, pitch-black wave of steel rats. And that guy running for his life? It was Huang Quan's best buddy, Yang Fan. Huang Quan just reached out, grabbed Yang Fan, and bolted without looking back. Good lord, if we got swarmed by that many rats, you didn't need to be a genius to know how ugly it would get. Not long after that, we pulled up to a gas station, just 50 meters behind us. Those freaky rats were still hot on our tail. I slammed my iron fists right into the ground. The concrete shattered into a massive crater, and gasoline started shooting up like a geyser. The air completely reeked of gas. I pulled out my heavy blade and hurled it as hard as I could. The chipped metal scraped violently against the pavement, throwing sparks that instantly set the whole gas station ablaze. The terrifying heat melted more than half the rats in a split second, giving the three of us just enough time to bust out of the city. After making it out of that mecha rat nightmare alive, I immediately threw open the car door, letting Yang Fan hop in, and we merged straight onto the highway. Once we were cruising, I slowed down a bit to drive side by side with Huang Quan. We kept chatting as we drove. Before long, the sky went completely pitch black. More and more silhouettes started appearing along the side of the road, all refugees fleeing the city. Are we gonna rest here? Huang Quan turned and asked me. There are a lot of mountains around here. Might be wild beasts roaming about. There's a rest stop about 80 kilometers ahead. Let's pull over there and take a break. After driving for about an hour, we could see from afar that hundreds of people were huddled together at the rest stop. Turns out the owner of the place was price gouging, jacking up the price of all the food by dozens of times. If he were just a regular guy, he'd have been beaten to a pulp by now, but the boss was actually a minivan. And he had over a dozen truck mechas acting as muscle. Right as I pulled into the gas station, a worker walked up to me and asked coldly, "Hey bro, you here for gas or a room?" But he couldn't help noticing my ride was a brand new vehicle with no plates. The guy immediately started getting greedy ideas. Yang Fan didn't care at first. He just took off his watch and handed it over. This thing was worth a cool $1.5 million. Take good care of my crew, and pack up a whole car full of food for us when we hit the road. But the very next second, the guy stuffed the watch right into his pocket, and put on an innocent face, claiming they only accept cash. When Yang Fan reached out to grab his watch back, the guy shoved him hard. Not only that, the jerk started screaming in Yang Fan's face, acting all pissed off. In all his life, Yang Fan had never met someone so shamelessly rotten. He was completely dumbfounded, and following the workers' loud shouts, a whole gang of mechas started marching over, their huge bodies towering above. Every single one of them was around 10 meters tall. The owner of the rest stop stepped up and had the nerve to bark out. "What the hell are you lot doing on my brand new vehicle? Get your asses off right now." Wow, unbelievable. These guys actually wanted to strip me for parts and take absolutely everything. A heavy-duty truck like me is worth way more than a regular rig. Surrounded by a bunch of 10-meter-tall mechas, Yang Fan gulped nervously and took a few steps back to my side. "You'd better handle this for me, buddy." Seeing how absolutely shameless this gang was, I threw caution to the wind and stood straight up from the ground. I instantly transformed into my mecha form. After going through 3 evolutions, my height was already pushing 17 meters. I glared down at the minivan's puny little frame, and with a smirk on my face, I raised my foot. Suddenly, with a massive crunch, the minivan's head got completely caved into its chest, and its legs snapped like twigs. In the blink of an eye, he was reduced to a pile of scrap metal. Right after that, I locked eyes with the rest of the mecha gang. They didn't even hesitate for a second before turning tail and running. I took a massive stride, covering 7 or 8 meters in a single step, and caught up to them in a matter of seconds. I swung a brutal punch. Luckily, right at the last second, I snapped him clean in half. But there were still 5 die-hard loyal mecha grunts left, who swore they'd avenge their minivan boss to the death, charging at me all at once. I hit them with a swinging hook, a flying kick, and a brutal knee strike. In less than 1 minute, I had them all wiped out. This wasn't even a fight. It was an absolute one-sided massacre. Over a dozen mechas, completely destroyed by my hands. The onlookers watching the scene were trembling in pure terror. It was the first time they realized that some folks are just born at the absolute top of the food chain. The power gap between different vehicle classes really is like night and day. Bright and early the next morning, everyone was jolted awake by the violent shaking of the ground. In the distance, dozens of heavy tanks came rumbling towards us. Trailing right behind them was a massive army of heavily armed soldiers. And it wasn't just thousands of troops. There were also tens of thousands of ordinary civilians. It was a massive, surging sea of people, stretching as far as the eye could see. But the second I saw that, I grabbed Huang Quan, turned around, and ran for my life. You see, the early days of the apocalypse didn't belong to the Mechas just yet. The Empire still ruled as the absolute king. I mean, going up against a barrage of rocket launchers, heavily armored tanks, and combat helicopters? Hell yeah, anyone would be terrified. Whenever the Empire came across a mecha, their standard protocol was to forcefully draft them all into the military. What, you want freedom? Let me introduce you to the anti-tank rocket launcher. When an armor-piercing shell explodes, the temperature shoots past 1,000 degrees. If an early-stage mech gets hit, it leaves a hole the size of a basketball straight through them. At noon, we arrived at the entrance of Bailingshan Park. This place used to be a famous ecological park. Not only did it have all sorts of fierce predators, but also plenty of large animals. Relying on my memories from my past life, I knew there was a research facility hidden near the park. That was the exact spot where Wang Chen found his ultra-high-temperature greatsword in my previous life. Wang Chen was already starving and could not wait to feast on the steel beasts. He just charged right in. He grabbed one of the steel beasts, gave it a brutal rip, and tore it in half instantly. The crystal inside fell out. Seeing this, Wang Chen snatched it up and shoved it straight into his mouth. Pretty soon, that maddening, clawing hunger finally began to fade. But the deeper we went, the more steel beasts we ran into. Lions, tigers, elephants, you name it. Eventually, even Wang Chen could not handle it anymore, and I had to step into the fight. Wang Chen did not back down. Even though his raw strength was massive, he was way too slow. He just was not as agile as I was. Meanwhile, inside the research facility, there was an old man with silver hair wearing a lab coat. He was a lead scientist in the field of condensed matter. This so-called condensed matter technology was heavily backed by the Empire, and this very technology would soon change the entire landscape of humanity. In my past life, it was all thanks to Dr. Chen using this condensed matter technology combined with those crystals to forge weapons, giving ordinary people the power to fight back. That was the only reason we barely held off the steel beast attacks. Honestly, without him, aside from the mechs, humanity in the Empire would not have survived at all. Just then, a blonde, blue-eyed foreigner suddenly kicked open the doors and made a run for it, taking 70 or 80 people with him. But they did not even make it a few steps before the screaming started. A pack of steel wolves charged out and tore them to shreds in an instant. Seeing the horror unfold, Wang Xiaoming instinctively backed away. This entire area had been ground zero for danger since the very start of the apocalypse. Now, there were no survivors for miles around. The streets were completely littered with corpses and the mangled parts of destroyed mechs. If it was not for the nuclear blast-proof glass doors holding them back. Just as everyone looked away, unable to watch their colleagues get ripped apart by the steel beasts, a steel wolf suddenly fell from the sky, smashing right into the blast-proof glass doors. Its body was grotesquely twisted, completely snapped in half at the waist. It was barely hanging together by a few metal bones. Right after that, a series of deafening explosions shook the ground. There was a small plaza just outside the Institute's entrance. The crowd could only stare at a massive, fiery red mech battling it out outside. The wolf pack threw themselves at it, wave after wave, snapping and tearing at the mech's armor. But he was just obliterating them with single punches. One hit was enough to crack the earth wide open. Craters were forming everywhere. Within minutes, the ground was totally covered in the mangled bodies of steel beasts. After wiping out the pack, I ran up to the facility doors, panting heavily, and shouted, "Is anyone still alive in there?" The heavy doors slowly opened. A crowd of people rushed out. I scanned their faces and asked flatly, "Which one of you is Dr. Chen?" An old man stepped forward, looking confused. I did not waste any time and got straight to the point. "We are running out of time, so I will keep this short. I know exactly how to achieve a breakthrough with your condensed matter technology. This whole sector is crawling with steel beasts. I cannot fight with all of you dragging me down, but I can bring you supply drops and food on a regular basis. Until the Empire sends a rescue team for you. Hearing this, Wang Xiaoming calmly replied, if the Empire didn't send you, then what exactly do you want? Risking your life to help out right now. You're definitely after something. I didn't bother hiding it and replied right away, I'll give you the breakthrough for the condensed state technology, and I'll keep you all safe. But in return, you have to forge a weapon for me. Don't worry, it's definitely something you can make. In my past life, Wang Chen passed through here and helped them out, catching a few steel beasts along the way for their research. Who would have thought that thanks to those crystals, old Chen would finalize the condensed state research, and even use the absolute top tier tech from that breakthrough to forge him a long blade. That blade was called the Inferno Edge. It's a blade that can unleash insanely high temperatures. Wang Chen is already pretty massive, but if you look across the whole country, there are plenty of mecha humans taller than him. A huge part of his strength came from that long blade. I was lucky enough to see it in my past life. With just one effortless swing, Wang Chen sliced a fully grown steel beast clean in half. Because the cost is sky high and the materials are so rare, there aren't many weapons like that in the entire world. To clash with the bigger guys in the future, I absolutely need to get my hands on this kind of overpowered, high-end weapon. After thinking it over for a few seconds, old Chen said, if everything is really as you say, then you have a deal. Hearing that, I gave a firm nod and left Yang Fan behind with them. I also pulled out a few boxes of instant noodles from my secret stash. Then, I turned and shouted to Wang Chen, who was busy fighting. Throw a steel beast over here. I watched as Wang Chen hoisted one up and hurled it across dozens of meters. I caught it with one hand and crushed it to death right on the spot. Inside the bodies of these steel beasts, there's something called a crystal. We mecha humans have them too. It's the ultimate power source for everything our bodies do. This will help you break through the condensed state technology. This time, besides food, I also brought a few fireworks. Once you've made the breakthrough, light one up. I'll come right over when I hear the sound. We can talk about forging the weapon then. Old Chen nodded heavily at my words, a fiery passion burning in his eyes. He was already itching to dissect and study the steel beast. Even Wang Xiaoming, standing off to the side, looked completely thrilled. I was about to ask for a few more beasts, but when I turned around, I realized Wang Chen was already drowning in a sea of steel monkeys. The perk of being massive is having insane strength. So, with my instructions given, I charged right in to help. We fought as we ran, covering a full dozen kilometers. These damn monkeys just wouldn't let up. We only ripped out a few of their crystals. Is it really worth all this? Wang Chen collapsed on the ground, panting hard, clutching a handful of crystals. There had to be about 20 or 30 of them. It was exactly because of these crystals that we were relentlessly chased by that monkey army. Throwing handful after handful of crystals into his mouth, Wang Chen crunched on them loudly. Right then, I pulled out a few fist-sized crystals and said, can't you set your sights a little higher? Those little monkeys haven't even finished a single evolution. How much energy could their crystals possibly hold? Think bigger next time, otherwise I'll be embarrassed to even admit I know you when we go out. Right now, my targets are the evolved steel beasts. The energy from just one of those is insanely stronger than the normal ones. Without another word, I yanked Wang Chen to his feet to continue our hunting trip and boost our evolution levels. Soon after, the two of us arrived at the entrance of Bailan Park. The first thing that caught our eye was a massive crocodile. I dashed forward in a flash, delivering a crushing blow right to the crocodile's head. Throwing his 100-ton body into the air, Wang Chen slammed down onto the crocodile's back. The beast roared in pain. Taking the chance, I grabbed its jaws with both hands and ripped them apart with all my strength. A loud, sickening crack echoed through the air. I completely tore the crocodile's mouth open, and Wang Chen seized the moment to rip the crystal straight from its throat. Over the past few days, the two of us have ambushed 6 or 7 waves of steel beasts and wiped out dozens of them. They were all massive, too. Each one packed more crystal energy than the last. I don't know if his massive size makes evolving harder for him. But even after devouring so many crystals, Wang Chen has only evolved twice. Not like me. I hit my 4th evolution a week ago, standing at a solid 17.5 meters tall. Just one more evolution to reach full maturity. Suddenly, a terrifying roar ripped through the air. The building ahead crumbled to pieces as a massive pack of mutated crocodiles charged out. The biggest one was over 20 meters long and 7 or 8 meters high. The spikes on its back were half a meter long, and its tail ended in a massive, brutal hammer. Wang Chen charged right in with massive strides, slamming his giant fist straight into the crocodile's back. He completely flattened the beast, shattering the ground beneath them into a huge spiderweb of cracks. But that alpha crocodile had already hit its fourth evolution. Its hammer-like tail swung back and viciously smashed right into Wang Chen's thigh. Knocked completely off his feet, Wang Chen didn't even hesitate. He frantically rolled out of the way. A split second later, a massive 2.5-meter crater was smashed into the exact spot where he just lay. If he hadn't dodged, that hit would have completely obliterated his body. After finishing off the rest of the pack, I rushed over to back him up, tearing a telephone pole right out of the street. I relentlessly bashed the crocodile with it. The deafening sound of metal crashing against scales echoed endlessly. Finally, Wang Chen drove his fist straight through the beast's stomach. But right at that moment, the ground suddenly started violently shaking. In the distance, an absolutely colossal shadow slowly began to emerge. It was a stage 6 evolved crocodile. I knew right then and there. With our current strength, we didn't stand a ghost of a chance. So, I swiftly ripped out the beast's crystal with practiced ease, and we hauled ourselves out of there. Soon, we reached an abandoned residential block. Wang Chen and I started tallying up our loot. I'll take these 6 crystals. And you take this big one. Wang Chen tossed me the crystal from the massive alpha we killed together. He then explained, once I absorb these 6, I should finally hit my third evolution. I tossed the massive crystal into my mouth and swallowed it whole. As it dropped into my stomach, the energy inside me instantly maxed out. If my body was just a steel skeleton before, it now felt entirely complete with flesh and blood. I could clearly feel tiny new pathways forming throughout every limb and bone. The crystal energy surged and pulsed through those pathways, finally flowing right back into my core. It kept looping endlessly. On the outside, my height locked in at a towering 18 meters. With just a single thought, my right arm began to mechanically click and clack, suddenly transforming and extending into a heavy cylindrical barrel. It had 9 separate gun barrels. Seeing this, Wang Chen literally jumped into the air. Whoa, what the hell is going on with you? I didn't say a word. I just raised my arm, aiming straight at a building ahead. The very next second, the barrels started spinning wildly. A chaotic storm of golden bullets instantly rained out. In a little over 10 seconds, the sheer firepower sliced the entire building right in half. Wang Chen stood next to me, his jaw completely dropped in shock. That makes 0 sense. Where did you even get those bullets? And how is the firepower so insane? I casually blew on the smoking barrels. As they shifted back into my normal hand. They're laser rounds, I said. Powered straight from my own crystal energy. If I evolve 5 more times, I'll hit that Lord tier level. Not even a direct missile strike could scratch me then. As I spoke, I extended my arm and shifted it back into the weapon. So, what do you think of my new toy? At the Lord tier, it'll evolve from this into a massive laser cannon. With just one single blast, it could completely obliterate a skyscraper right down the middle. Wang Chen gulped nervously, completely speechless. Meanwhile, inside the institute, Dr. Chen suddenly shouted at a glowing crystal. It's done. The condensed matter technology has finally made a breakthrough. He held the crystal high, shouting to everyone in the lab. This isn't just a technological breakthrough, it's the hope for all of humanity. Seeing the fireworks signal from the institute, Huang Quan and I fought our way over at noon that very day. We also brought a truckload of daily supplies. Having evolved into my adult stage, I just did a simple sweep with my laser rounds. The horde of steel beasts swarming the square instantly dropped dead. Seeing me, Dr. Chen's pupils shrank. He knew I had evolved. He stared at me with burning eyes. Now that we've cracked the condensed matter technology, what kind of weapon do you want us to forge? A blade, a superheated flame blade. I honestly didn't know the exact functions of the flame demon either, so I could only describe it based on what I remembered from my past life. Since this blade originally came from the research center, I figured they would have some idea how to make it. But to my surprise, the guy put in charge of this project was Dr. Chen's apprentice, Wang Xiaoming. He lugged the machine up from the basement and did a full body scan on me. Seeing this, Everyone else backed way off. That thing gave off massive radiation. It wasn't meant for humans at all. A normal person would suffer liver and kidney failure just from being exposed to it. Their organs would just shut down. From the chatter around me, I caught on that. The materials they were using for my weapon were rocket grade. Meanwhile, Huang Quan grabbed a handful of crystals and shoved them into his mouth. Damn it, is this mining truck cursed or something? After swallowing them, his mecha showed zero signs of evolution. He just stared blankly. I watched from a distance, letting out a low chuckle. But honestly, I was pretty jealous that Huang Quan had a massive killing machine like a mining dump truck. Only those who have lived through the apocalypse truly understand how crucial a good starting point is. Ordinary people without vehicles were doomed to starvation and death. Motorcycles, tricycles, minivans. These mecha humans didn't have to worry about food or basic human needs. But their combat power was incredibly limited. They were the absolute bottom tier of the mecha clan. On the battlefield, they were pure cannon fodder. Mid-tier mecha humans were your everyday family sedans. Their strength was stuck right in the middle, and it was incredibly hard for them to level up. Only a rare few ever managed to break through to the next level. Heavy-duty trucks, large excavators, off-roaders and bulldozers. These were the elite forces. Only mecha humans of this tier had what it took to survive in this chaotic world. Finally, the nuke-proof glass doors of the research center hissed open. Yang Fan and Wang Xiaoming walked out with heavy, dark bags under their eyes. The rest of the team was completely passed out on the floor. They hadn't slept a wink in days just to finish this weapon. Everyone had been playing assistant to Wang Xiaoming. The two of them stepped forward, carrying a massive hilt. It was pitch black and 2.5 meters long. One end was rounded, while the other was shaped like a roaring dragon's head. This is... Wang Xiaoming gave a mysterious grin. Try it and you'll see. Push that switch on the side, he urged. Hearing this, I did as Wang Xiaoming asked and gently pushed the switch. The very next second, 25% of my internal crystal energy was instantly drained. The energy surged down my arm and into the hilt. In a flash, a blinding beam of light erupted from the dragon's mouth, stabilizing into an 8-meter-long, glowing red blade. A scorching wave of heat hit my face. Wang Xiaoming hastily backed up a few steps and yelled, "This blade feeds off its master's crystal energy. The hilt's internal mechanism converts the energy into a blazing hot blade. It's not actually a physical object, but rather pure, super dense heat. The energy blade has 3 power settings. Level 1 hits 1500 degrees. Level 2 reaches 5000. And level 3 tops 10,000 degrees. With a hard kick off the ground, I instantly dashed in front of a 3-story building. Without a second thought, I slashed down. A flash of fiery red light sliced through the air. The 3-story building was instantly sliced clean in half. Now this is a god-tier weapon. I looked down at the blade, feeling incredibly satisfied. The only downside is how much crystal energy it drains. Just level 1 sucked up 10% of my power. And taking a swing used up even more. I can swing this thing for 2 minutes, tops, before it completely dies. Since pumping crystal energy into it creates all this intense heat, I think I'll call it the Flame Demon. I played it totally cool, casually dropping the exact same name the blade had in my past life. The Flame Demon. What a badass name. Huang Quan was staring at it, completely mesmerized. This blade is totally insane. One swing of that thing. And who could possibly survive? It's an absolute weapon of mass destruction. If the materials weren't so incredibly rare, Huang Quan would have done anything to get his hands on one too. Just then, a loud roar echoed from the sky. I looked up, and saw an attack helicopter hovering right over the city. After lingering for a few seconds, the chopper suddenly nose-dived straight toward a skyscraper. Just as everyone braced for a fiery crash, the very next second, the helicopter transformed into a massive mech and landed right on the rooftop. The mech turned its massive head, staring down at our research team from hundreds of meters away. Huang Quan had been around the block. It only took him 2 seconds to spot something off. Wait, that's not right. That's a heavily modified attack helicopter. It doesn't even have a weapons system. But before we could react, Yang Fan jumped up, waving his arms frantically. "Hey, over here," he yelled. Then he turned to Huang Quan and me, explaining, "That's my cousin, Yang Ao. That chopper is a decommissioned model. They stripped the weapons off it ages ago. My cousin's a military pilot. He pulled some serious strings to buy it." It only looks like an attack chopper on the outside. Deep down, it's basically just a civilian bird. Hearing that, I was absolutely speechless. What a guy. Yang Ao moved incredibly fast. Within seconds, the huge mech landed right in front of us. Right after greeting Yang Fan, his eyes landed on the building I had just sliced in half. His eye gave a hard twitch, but after Yang Fan quickly introduced everyone, we all started getting along pretty well. Honestly, I knew Yang Ao pretty well myself. In my past life, he ended up becoming a total legend. You see, helicopters are super rare in our country. And attack helicopters? Even rarer. Finding one is harder than finding Huang Quan's massive mining dump truck. Ever since the apocalypse, thick dark clouds had blacked out the sky, and magnetic interference was everywhere. Commercial flights were completely grounded. So, the absolute fastest way to travel long distances was by helicopter. Way better than ground transport. Cruising at over 200 kilometers per hour. You could cross the country from south to north in just a few hours. Getting ready to leave, Yang Ao prepared to fly Yang Fan to Qingzhou City. Just before taking off, Yang Ao turned back and tried to reassure the research team. Listen, 10 minutes ago, on my way here, I spotted the capital's rescue team. They're sending choppers to pick you all up right now. Just hang tight and don't panic. But hearing that, a wave of deep disappointment washed over Yang Fan's face. He had really hoped to bring the entire research team with him to Qingzhou. After spending just a few days at the institute, he knew exactly how terrifyingly powerful their condensed titanium tech was gonna be. In the future, that stuff is going to be an absolute game changer. Plus, there's Wang Xiaoming, that genius weapon designer. But setting all that aside, any faction would kill to have those dozens of scientists. Thinking about this, Yang Fan slammed his fist against the dashboard. If Yang Ao hadn't warned them that the Empire's choppers were on the way, he definitely would have kidnapped Mr. Chen and Wang Xiaoming today. After Yang Fan and his crew left, I immediately grabbed Huang Quan and got ready to roll out. In the early days of the apocalypse, there are just too many opportunities out there. I didn't want to get swallowed up by the Empire this early in the game. Barely a few minutes after we took off, a squad of armed choppers roared overhead. 15 pitch-black gunships, bristling with cold steel muzzles and gleaming artillery shells on both sides. The researchers waved frantically and screamed for help, practically bursting into tears. A squad of soldiers in camo fatigues dropped from the choppers, every single one of them gripping a heavy machine gun. The lead officer, hiding behind pitch-black shades, announced, "I'm the extraction team sent by the Empire. Get on the choppers, now. I'm taking you all back to the capital." Glancing back at the lab, Mr. Chen frowned deeply. "But what about all the equipment here? Sorry, we can't take it with us. The best option is to burn it all down." The researchers gasped in horror. "Absolutely not. The tech in there is priceless. It's way too valuable. You can't just destroy it. Wang Xiaoming's basement vault has a blast-proof security door. Nobody can break into that. When the time is right, we can always come back for it. Just get on the damn chopper and stop wasting time." Meanwhile, hiding out in a residential complex next to the park, I pulled Huang Quan to a halt. I turned to him and whispered, "Once those guys are gone, we are swiping all that tech. Later on, when we've scavenged enough materials, we'll just kidnap Wang Xiaoming and force him to build our weapons." Honestly, looting the gear wasn't just about our future survival. I had a selfish motive, too. I couldn't let a weapon like the Balrog fall into the Empire's hands. The capital is a total mess right now, and there are way too many ruthless warlords rising to power. They don't know Wang Xiaoming forged the Balrog yet, but the second they find out, they'll double back to seize the lab. If they get their hands on that data and tech, it wouldn't be long before a second, or even a third Balrog is forged. Look, using those weapons to slaughter iron beasts is one thing. But using them to execute any cyborgs who refuse to bend the knee, that's a goddamn nightmare. Half an hour later, once I was dead sure the Empire's goons had cleared out, Huang Quan and I snuck back into the lab. Huang Quan didn't hold back. He threw a massive punch, and the nuke-proof glass doors shattered instantly. But what we saw next left us staring in absolute awkwardness. Huang Quan couldn't help but groan, "Are you kidding me? This door is way too freaking small." Without another word, I drew the Balrog from its sheath. I shifted it into first gear, and a fierce red glow pulsed across the blade. With one vicious swing, I sliced the roof right off the facility. Within minutes, we had the place ripped wide open. Exposing the guts of the lab, there were hundreds of computers and massive machines towering 3 or 4 meters high. Along with countless transistors and sealed crates of classified data, I quickly ordered Huang Quan to start packing it all up. 10 minutes later, we had stripped the underground vault completely bare. After clearing the lab, we didn't rush to hit the road. Instead, we found a hidden spot and buried the entire stash. Traveling at night was basically a death wish out here. Let's just find a place to crash for the night. By the next morning, we hit the road and finally left Shenbei City. Our next stop? Handong Province, one of the biggest top-tier hubs left in the country. A population of 60 million. On the highway, Huang Quan spoke up and asked, "You were in such a hurry to get to Qingzhou before. Was there something important going on?" Well, it was important, but not anymore. Hearing this, Huang Quan excitedly said, "Since it's not important, then let's wreak some havoc in Handong before we leave. Leveling up our strength is what really matters. Otherwise, once the steel beasts evolve, they'll be a nightmare to kill. Let's just focus on getting stronger for now." A day later, we entered Handong. We didn't head straight for the provincial capital, but the moment we stepped foot in this place, we ran into trouble. Roadblocks were set up all over the ground, and dozens of mecha men were glaring at us, holding brand new automatic rifles in their hands. They cornered us by the side of the road. These mecha men came in all sizes: vans, sedans, and even motorcycles and scooters. The motorcycle mecha men were about the size of a normal human, pretty short. And not very strong. A beat-up, ninth-hand blue alto roared at me. "What are your names? What are you doing here?" Huang Quan glanced at the muzzles of their guns and took half a step back. "Hey, take it easy. My name's Huang Quan, and my brother and I are refugees from Shenbei." Hearing this, a tiny white bicycle picked up a pen and scribbled down our identities on a piece of paper. Then, the alto shamelessly boasted, "Protecting humanity is everyone's duty. From this moment on, you too are drafted. We guarantee you won't go hungry or thirsty every day. You know, we've already taken over the gas stations around here. Outsiders can't get a single drop of gas." Hearing this, Huang Quan was completely speechless. "Bro, don't you guys hear all that sloshing around in your stomachs?" "No duh, everyone's gas tank sloshes. Also, we provide steel beast corpses here. When you eat them, make sure you eat the whole thing. Otherwise, it won't work." Huang Quan shot me a questioning look, but a second later, I nodded and agreed to it. "Glad you two have some sense." The guys lowered their guns and walked ahead to lead the way. I followed right behind them. Since we were going to hunt steel beasts anyway, I figured we might as well help them out. 10 or so minutes later, the group reached the outskirts of the streets. From far away, we could see the streets crawling with all sorts of steel beasts. We didn't rush in blindly. Instead, we hid behind a building. The blue alto laid out the battle plan. "Machine gunners, alternate your fire from the left and right. Once we secure the intersection, Team 1 takes the high-rise on the left, and Team 2 takes the high-rise on the right. You newbies are pretty big, so you'll lead the charge. If you even think about running, the guys in the back will turn you both into Swiss cheese." Even before the mission started, he didn't forget to threaten us. I said, "No problem," but the very next moment, I transformed into my giant mecha form. Huang Quan did exactly the same. The two massive behemoths stood right behind them. The sky inexplicably darkened just a little. The armed motorcycle's fingers were trembling, and the rest of the gang was completely dumbfounded. Only the blue alto kept his eyes fixed forward, glaring at a 4-meter-tall steel dog on the street. The alto yelled excitedly, "This is gonna be a tough battle. Everyone, look alive. Have you guys found those two yet?" The guys behind him were on the verge of tears. Patting Alto on the shoulder, "Hey, man, take a look behind you." Alto turned around, only to see a massive dark shadow. He couldn't help but wonder, since when was there a wall here? He tilted his head back, following the wall all the way up, only to find two massive faces staring right down at him. One red, one yellow. These two mechs were absolute works of art, bearing a car and an Osaka logo on their chests respectively. Wang Chen let out a loud cackle. "Captain Zhang, right? So, when are we heading out?" Alto gulped hard. "B-boss. Just call me Little Zhang. Whatever it is, let's talk after we finish this fight." His mind was completely blown. These two mechs were a whopping 18 meters tall, way bigger than any normal heavy-duty truck mech. The motorcycle and scooter squads led the charge, Under the sweeping fire of their assault rifles, the steel beasts were riddled with holes, but it still took dozens of rounds just to take one down. Wang Chen muttered coolly, well trained. Interesting. I watched the whole thing unfold with a cold gaze. Firearms were usually meant for the smaller mechs anyway. For the big car mechs, holding a gun was like holding a toothpick. Yet, this squad gave off a hardcore, military vibe. Zhang Cheng led his car mechs closely behind, charging forward without any fear of death. After watching from the sidelines for a bit, Wang Chen and I leapt straight into the street. Wang Chen threw a brutal punch right at a steel hound. The beast's spine completely caved in, and its metal ribs shattered. Its limbs were blown to pieces as the massive body crashed heavily to its knees. The punch even tore straight through its lower half, sending a disgusting mess spewing everywhere. I leapt onto a 3-story building, cursing the whole way. Old Huang, why the hell did you hit it so hard? Suddenly, the tide of the battle shifted. The mech squad's casualties started piling up, and their defense line was on the verge of total collapse. Just then, a deafening gunshot rang out from a distance. One of the steel beasts got its head blown clean off. A heavily modified Kawasaki HR motorcycle roared in. The riderless bike launched into the air, flipped, and morphed into a 1.8-meter green mech. It landed perfectly, gripping a massive sniper rifle. The newcomer was none other than Yi Dang, but in the blink of an eye, he was swarmed by over 100 steel beasts. He raised his arm, which instantly shifted into a massive gun barrel. A barrage of laser blasts rained down on them. In less than 10 seconds, all 100 steel beasts were blown to absolute shreds. The entire battlefield fell dead silent. Thanks to Wang Chen's briefing, we found out Yi Dang was an orphaned, slacker rich kid. Zhang Cheng, on the other hand, was a police captain who led his comrades to set up a base to protect the civilians. After absorbing the steel beast's crystals and leveling up, Yi Dang immediately started kissing up to us. Boss, let me roll with you. Scouting, gathering intel, looting crystals, I'll do literally anything. Wang Chen slapped him right upside the head. Listen here, kid, you're trying to steal my job. I just rolled my eyes. Hey, an extra pair of hands couldn't hurt. With Yi Dang leading the way, we arrived at the wild game market. Strangely, the steel beasts here weren't fighting at all. They were perfectly orderly. That meant there was definitely an alpha keeping them in line. And sure enough, a 40-meter-long massive steel python slithered out of nowhere. Its hand-sized scales gleamed with a deadly, cold light. The king mark carved into its forehead was proof of its absolute dominance. I just raised my arm and unleashed a whole barrage of laser blasts right at it. Sparks flew everywhere, but it didn't even leave a scratch. Huang Quan clicked his tongue in frustration. Guess this laser gun isn't invincible after all. On a tall building in the distance, Yi Dang panicked and screamed, "Run for your lives." Seeing that the two of us didn't back down, the beast swarmed right at us. I drew my flame demon blade, while Huang Quan rushed ahead to take on the giant beast. "I'll handle the small fry," I yelled, charging straight into the horde of mecha beasts. The blade erupted with blistering heat, slicing right through the mecha beasts. As easily as a hot knife through butter. Meanwhile, Huang Quan lunged at the massive python. With a single, explosive punch, he knocked the 40-meter-long steel leviathan right to the ground. A massive cloud of dust kicked up everywhere. But then, Huang Quan stood frozen in place, his face dead serious. The giant python reared its head from the rubble, lunged at him, and coiled its massive body tightly around him. It tried to swallow him whole like a rat. Huang Quan desperately grabbed its upper and lower jaws to keep it open. Brute strength was his specialty. He pushed back relentlessly against the beast's gaping maw. The python couldn't clamp its jaws shut no matter how hard it tried. The man and the beast were locked in a fierce stalemate. I readied my flame demon blade and roared, "Old Huang, duck." I brought the blade crashing down on the monster. Its tough scales instantly melted away under the sword's scorching heat. The very next second, its entire upper half was sent flying. Watching its severed lower body still thrashing around, I pinned the snake's head under my boot and viciously plunged the fiery blade straight down. The python's skull was pierced right through, pinning it dead to the ground. A moment later, Yi Dang eagerly scrambled over to the massive carcass. He scavenged the energy crystals and cleared the battlefield, then proudly handed the glowing loot to me. Without missing a beat, I grabbed a couple handfuls of crystals and swallowed them to recharge the energy I'd burned today. Then, I tossed the python's massive core over to Huang Quan. Grinning from ear to ear, he caught it and gulped it down. His body instantly shot up by a full meter, his muscles bulging with newly unleashed power. Fourth evolution, complete, I announced. Let's call it a day and head back to base. The local university had been fully converted into a heavily fortified stronghold. Stepping inside the campus gates, couples strolled hand in hand, while the happy laughter of the elderly and children filled the air. It didn't feel like a post-apocalyptic wasteland at all. Later, Huang Quan and I headed out to a small river just past the city limits. This guy shamelessly insisted on tagging along with us, but we had barely taken a few steps when I suddenly felt something was very wrong. A faint tremor began shaking the ground beneath our feet. The river ahead rippled wildly, and out on the horizon, thousands of mechanical beasts were stampeding straight toward us. The steel horde was relentlessly chasing down tens of thousands of civilians and motor cyborgs. Anyone who lagged behind was instantly torn to shreds. These people are refugees from another base, I muttered, glaring at the ruthless steel monsters. But deep down, I was practically itching for a fight. Alright, let's get one thing straight. Whoever kills it, keeps the crystal, I shouted, and with that, I spun around and led Huang Quan in a mad dash toward the city district. Total panic broke out everywhere. The massive tide of steel beasts was flooding in. People who couldn't outrun them were instantly swallowed by the metallic stampede. Even the slower motor cyborgs were being ripped apart piece by piece. Meanwhile, I took cover right beside a crumbling office building. I waited until the deafening roar of their heavy footsteps echoed in my ears, and then, I threw a massive punch. I smashed my fist straight into the damaged structure beside me. The already battered skyscraper completely snapped under my blow. The collapsing building crushed a whole pack of those steel beasts, perfectly barricading the entire street. With the massive horde of monsters effectively blocked outside, I morphed my arm straight into a heavy Gatling gun. Raising my gun, I fired a volley of yellow laser blasts. The bullets rained down like a storm, trapping the steel beasts in the narrow street, leaving them absolutely nowhere to hide. The steel beasts fell in droves. In this ambush alone, I caught about 200 to 300 ordinary steel beasts. But right at that moment, a massive steel boar charged out from the corner. I threw a heavy punch straight at the 12-meter-tall beast. The very next second, its fangs snapped clean off, and its entire head just exploded. After taking care of that steel boar, I shouted to Yi Dang, who was hiding in the corner, I'm going after the rest of the pack. You follow behind and dig out all their crystals. Hearing this, Yi Dang jumped down from the wall, and started digging out the crystals, staring at the ground littered with the corpses of the steel beasts. 10 or so minutes later, following the sound of the gunshots, Yi Dang arrived at the second battlefield carrying a heavy sack. The residential area was completely devastated, with collapsed buildings everywhere and steel beast corpses littering the ground. Among them were plenty of massive animals that had evolved 4 times. By the time Yi Dang got there, he saw me sitting alone on the ruins. He quickly handed the sack over to me, then turned around to keep digging crystals from the beasts on the ground. I opened the sack, tossed out the crystals, and right in front of Yi Dang, I started eating them handful by handful. My stamina drains way too fast, so I had to refuel my energy immediately. In no time at all, under the stunned gazes of Huang Quan and Yi Dang, I completely polished off several sacks of crystals. Old Huang, how about you and I go a few rounds? Hearing this, Huang Quan was secretly thrilled. Sure thing, but let's get one thing straight first. You can't use your flame demon blade. I let out a loud laugh. Not only will I not use it, I'll even beat you with one hand tied behind my back. This guy had just leveled up to his adult stage. I saw him crouch down slightly, pushing hard off the ground. And he launched himself forward like a spring. He threw a wicked hook right at my face. I took half a step back, effortlessly dodging the punch. Then, I clenched my left fist tight. Instantly, a pitch black hue coated everything from my knuckles all the way up my arm. In a flash, I slammed a punch right into his gut. Old Huang's face instantly dropped. He flew backward in a perfect arc, crashing hard onto the ground over a dozen meters away. Kicking up a massive cloud of dust, Yi Dang dropped the crystals in his hands. Without even realizing it, he just stood there, staring blankly in absolute shock. It took a full 3 minutes for Huang Quan to finally pick himself up off the dirt. He stared wide-eyed at my pitch-black arm, his pupils shrinking in terror. What kind of punch was that? For a second there, I seriously thought you punched a hole right through me. The ink-black color slowly faded from my arm. That's normal, because I've reached the 6th evolution. Starting from the 6th, the body gets an extra layer of enhancement. I like to call it armament. Both raw power and physical toughness get a massive boost. Not even a rocket launcher could pierce this. Once this completely covers my entire body, that's when I hit the Lord tier. Honestly, I only just broke through to the 6th evolution after swallowing those thousands of crystals. I'm gonna go find a few more steel beasts to test my skills on. In my past life, I only survived up to the adult stage. I have to figure out this 6th evolution power as fast as possible. I used the armor to shield my arm, deliberately holding back to let the monsters bite me up close, testing my defensive blocks for over half an hour. Then, I swiftly drew my flame demon battle blade. Alright, time to send these stragglers straight to hell. I was seriously curious about the power of Gear 2, so I just pushed the blade to its absolute limit. This damn thing was like a high-powered water pump, frantically draining the energy crystals right out of my body. The temperature around me spiked like crazy. Just when I thought I was gonna be sucked totally dry, the energy output finally stabilized. The blade was still 8 meters long, but the color was so blood red, it looked like it was about to drip. The air was warping violently from the terrifying heat. I locked my sights on a 20-meter tall office building right in front of me. Gripping Flame Demon with both hands, I viciously cleaved down with a frenzied strike. The second the swing finished, I slammed it back into Gear 1 to cut the output. There was no way my body's energy could survive a second squeezing from that vampire. Just 2 seconds later, a perfectly straight black line materialized out of thin air, right down the middle of the office building. I reached out and gave it a gentle push. Half the building came crashing down. It revealed a cross-section as smooth as a mirror. Even I couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The blade's temperature in Gear 1 was 1,500 degrees, but in Gear 2, it shot straight up to 5,000. This insane sharpness could slice through any top-tier armor like butter. With this sword in my hands, I'd even dare to pick a fight with a Lord-level beast. Taking out enemies way above my level would be a total breeze. Sure, my current level 6 evolution energy is only enough to pull off one of these ultimate strikes. But keeping it in my back pocket to play the fool, catching a strong enemy off guard would absolutely wreck them. Right at that moment, I turned my head toward the street a few hundred meters away. My old buddy, Zhang Cheng, was desperately covering a group of fleeing survivors. Hot on their heels were dozens of bloodthirsty, savage iron beasts. The second that crowd sprinted around the corner, they froze dead in their tracks, like they'd been hit with a paralyzing spell. Every single one of them was staring dumbfounded at me, this 18-meter-tall, crimson mecha. Their minds were totally blown, stuck on that jaw-dropping image of me slicing a whole building in half. Zhang Cheng suddenly snapped out of it, screaming at everyone to stop staring and run for their lives. But when he turned around, he saw that the monsters that were just baring their fangs a second ago had completely chickened out. That pack of iron beasts definitely recognized me. The god of death who had hunted down and slaughtered thousands of their kind. They were so terrified they turned tail and bolted. A few even tripped and scrambled away on their hands and knees. Their pure animal instinct told them that crossing paths with me meant certain death. I had barely even glanced in their direction, and it still scared the living daylights out of those bastards. The sound of people frantically gulping echoed through the crowd of survivors. Someone asked in absolute shock, "Who the hell is this legend, scaring off a horde of beasts with just a look?" Zhang Cheng stared at me with a complicated expression. Sighing deeply, he revealed my name to the crowd. In his eyes, I was definitely a straight-up hacker who didn't play by the rules. I mean, we all awakened and turned into motor mechas at the exact same time. So why the hell was I the only one who was so ridiculously, insanely overpowered? Zhang Cheng and I finally met up. Yi Dang stared at the thousands of people trailing right behind Zhang Cheng. His eyes practically bugged out of his head. He'd already experienced firsthand how ungrateful and backstabbing these survivors could be. He really didn't expect Zhang Cheng to be such a bleeding heart, dragging all this dead weight around. Save whoever you can. There are pregnant women and kids in this crowd. He just couldn't harden his heart and leave them to die. Huang Quan leaned against a pile of rubble, not even bothering to lift an eyelid. He lazily reminded the refugees that the surrounding iron beasts had been completely wiped out. If you want to live, hurry up and go find your own food. After Zhang Cheng gave a grateful salute, he immediately turned and barked at the civilians to start scavenging for supplies. Seeing Zhang Cheng act so decisively now, I nodded to myself. He really had matured a lot. I signaled Huang Quan and Yi Dang to get ready to move out and head to the next farming spot. Zhang Cheng quickly called out, stopping Yi Dang, generously tossing over a few boxes of special sniper ammo. Yi Dang didn't hold back either. He forcefully shoved a few evolution crystals into Zhang Cheng's hands and bolted. Huang Quan watched with amusement, and casually tossed Zhang Cheng 2 level 3 evolution crystals as well. He laughed out loud, saying Zhang Cheng had done a damn good job. The things I've always wanted to do but couldn't. Next time I get the chance, I'm definitely chugging down a few barrels of gasoline to celebrate. The howling wind swept up the city's gunsmoke, and the silhouettes of us 3 faded further away under the gloomy gray sky. We left Zhang Cheng behind, clutching the crystal and watching us leave with a complicated look in his eyes. On the road to the next city, I started laying down some ground rules for the squad. Any loot we score as a team gets split based on how much work each person put in. Yi Dang, who was just tagging along to score some free perks, instantly agreed without a second thought. Huang Quan also nodded in agreement. I went on to announce Yi Dang's official role as our squad sniper. From now on, during combat, his job is to draw enemy fire, scout the terrain, cover our retreat, and on top of that, clean up the battlefield. Yi Dang slammed on the brakes. With a miserable look on his face, he whined that covering our retreat was basically a suicide mission. He argued that if a steel beast was tough enough to make me and Huang Quan run for our lives, staying behind to cover us would leave him reduced to absolute dust. I rolled my eyes and snapped back. If it were that easy, I would just do it myself. What would I even need him for? Gritting his teeth, Yi Dang bit the bullet and accepted the grueling assignment. He knew perfectly well that if he wanted to stick around in this squad, he had to prove that he had some irreplaceable value. Meanwhile, Huang Quan was standing right there, totally gloating. But I immediately whipped my head around and put him in his place, too. From now on, he was going to be the squad's main DPS. Anytime we ran into a tough enemy, he'd be the first one on the front lines. Huang Quan's smug smile instantly froze on his face. He shot back, demanding to know why I was the strongest, yet he was the one being sent to tank all the damage. I confidently set him straight. Good steel is used for the blade. Whether I'm using my flame demon or my arm transformations, my ultimate moves burn up a massive amount of energy. Wasting them to clear out small fry enemies would be a total joke. I have to save them for the critical moments to land a one-hit kill. Besides, if an absolute pro like me had to step in for every little thing, that would completely ruin my street cred. Huang Quan rolled his eyes so hard they almost got stuck in the back of his head. He muttered that I just wanted to play dumb to catch my enemies off guard. I couldn't be bothered to argue, so I just cranked up the stereo and blasted "Today is a good day" at maximum volume. Anyway, since we were officially teaming up to survive, I suggested we come up with a badass, hardcore name for the squad. Huang Quan looked up at the heavily overcast sky and shamelessly declared that since we were going to slay gods anyway, we might as well just call ourselves the Skyscrewers. Yi Dang and I were left completely speechless. That name was just way too over the top. I immediately shot it down and changed it to something a bit more normal but still badass. Heaven's Defiance. Yi Dang clapped his hands in frantic agreement. Riding that wave, I went ahead and announced our official squad titles. Naturally, I'd be stepping up as the captain. Huang Quan was named vice captain, and Yi Dang would have to settle for being the captain of the first detachment. I said out loud that I was absolutely not running a dictatorship, and that they were totally welcome to voice their opinions. Huang Quan just glared at me, definitely cursing me out in his head. I mean, I had already rigged the squad name and all our ranks. What the hell else were they even supposed to say? Yi Dang, on the other hand, was so thrilled he kept clapping, swearing up and down that he would follow my lead to the end. Huang Quan just mocked him, pointing out that he literally didn't have a single soldier under his command, so what was he getting all worked up about? I just laughed and patted Yi Dang on the shoulder, promising him that down the road, I'd score him a heavy anti-tank Barrett sniper rifle. Living in this messed up apocalypse, going lone wolf is a guaranteed death sentence. I had been drooling over Huang Quan's skills as the future god of land combat for a while now. Pulling him into the squad was, without a doubt, my absolute biggest trump card for surviving this chaotic world. I'm going to personally forge a squad that might be small in numbers, but has the power to steamroll the entire world as the ultimate armored mecha strike force. In this broken era of universal mechanization and warring warlords, we are going to carve out a bloody path. The deadly gambling table of this dog-eat-dog wasteland is officially open for bets. If you don't have enough hard chips in your hand, the dealer is going to wipe you out. On our way to Qingzhou, we had to pass through Yangcheng. That place served as the safe zone for the main Handong military forces. 2 days later, in the late afternoon, the three of us crept up to the Han River Bridge, about a dozen kilometers outside of Yangcheng. The freezing headwind whipping across the bridge chilled us right down to the bone. Yi Dang stood on the massive 100-meter-long bridge, staring down at the sparkling surface of the river below. This was the absolute shortest route to Yangcheng, but weirdly enough, there wasn't a single soul in sight. The sign said, "Beware of river monsters." Over the past couple of days, we'd already wiped out most of the adult steel beasts in the rest of Handong. So, seeing this sign, instead of backing down, we actually got pumped up. Yi Dang had sharp eyes and spotted a massive dark shadow darting through the river. I immediately gave the order to do things the old-fashioned way. Huang Quan kept staring at the bridge, muttering to himself, terrified that with his heavy build, he'd sink straight to the bottom if he fell in. I snapped at him, yelling that if he dawdled any longer, I'd chuck him into the river to feed the fishes myself. Yi Dang took the lead, stepping out onto the icy bridge, while Huang Quan and I shifted into our combat vehicle modes and followed right behind him. By the time we reached the dead center of the bridge, everything was still completely calm. Yi Dang, playing his part perfectly, faked a slip. He took a massive face plant. The sack on his back popped open, and a few energy crystals went splashing right into the river. I couldn't help but chuckle. A terrifying whirlpool instantly formed on the river, growing bigger by the second. Huang Quan's eyes were glued to the water as he warned me the monster was coming up. The calm water suddenly exploded in a massive splash. A colossal, dozens of meters long, black-scaled fish erupted from the surface, blocking out the sun. The beast had 4 enormous claws, and its terrifying, gaping maw was packed with row after row of razor-sharp teeth. The monster lunged straight at Yi Dang, planning to swallow him whole before diving back into the river. Yi Dang screamed in absolute terror, begging me to save him. In a flash, Huang Quan morphed into his mecha form, radiating the overwhelming aura of a god of war. His devastating heavy punch ripped through the air, slamming viciously into the giant fish's side. But the beast's scales were way too slick, causing the blow to lose a lot of its raw power. It merely sent a shower of sparks and a few scales flying. Still, the massive fish was blasted back over 10 meters, crashing hard onto the bridge. Realizing that Huang Quan was not someone to mess with, the creature scrambled up and tried to leap back into the river to escape. The beast had just launched itself 7 or 8 meters high. It was suspended in midair right before it could hit the water. When the flame demon blade in my hand turned into a streak of crimson lightning and slashed right at it. Sensing its imminent death, the huge fish instinctively twisted its head and curled up its body. The razor-sharp blade instantly sliced cleanly through more than half of its tail. The black scales around the gruesome wound were scorched, glowing fiercely red from the 5,000-degree heat. The monster slammed onto the deck, thrashing wildly in agony and roaring like crazy. I didn't give it a single second to catch its breath. Gripping my fiery red longsword, I closed the distance instantly. Knowing it couldn't dodge, the vile beast simply snapped its jaws wide open, jaws strong enough to crush reinforced concrete, and chomped straight for my head. It probably thought it could grind my arm and my skull into bloody dust all at once. But I didn't flinch. I didn't even try to dodge. I just raised the heavy armor on my left arm and took the hit head-on. The huge fish chomped down brutally on my arm, but it couldn't even leave a scratch on the plating. With my right hand, I swung the flame demon blade, keeping my momentum as a blinding wave of fire erupted. The colossal fish head was instantly launched into the air, rolling uselessly to the side. The whole fight was perfectly clean and utterly ruthless. It didn't even last 3 seconds. Yi Dang, completely used to the drill, rushed over and excitedly dug out a crystal the size of a basketball. Just as he was about to shove our loot into his sack, an angry, booming shout echoed from the other end of the bridge. 5 heavy tanks, escorting 15 massive red trucks, rumbled fiercely onto the bridge. Those trucks looked insanely similar to me, just a tiny bit shorter. Judging by the emblems slapped on their chests, the weakest among them were at least 2nd stage evolutions. The guy leading the pack was actually a 4th stage. That arrogant 4th stage captain practically sneered at us, claiming that this was the prey they had been staking out for days. Huang Quan narrowed his eyes and coldly asked him what the hell he wanted to do about it. The bastard arrogantly ordered us to drop the crystal, announcing that we were being forcefully drafted by the Yangcheng forces. Huang Quan finally got a taste of how these so-called regular army guys acted, just like power-tripping thugs. The captain flicked his hand, and the dark, deadly barrels of all 5 tanks aimed directly at the 3 of us. He shot us an icy smirk and delivered his warning. If I didn't play along, we were dead meat. So, I faked surrender and strutted right up to them. I started kissing up to the governor of Yangcheng, spinning a total load of bull, saying how I'd looked up to the guy for ages and was dying to join his ranks. I shot Wang Chen a quick look over my shoulder, signaling Yi Dang to hand over the crystal we'd barely even pocketed yet. Looking absolutely miserable, Dang handed over that top-tier crystal. The guys in the heavy-duty truck convoy stared at it, completely mesmerized by a gem that huge. The captain snatched it up, looking real smug about me acting like a total lapdog. Just then, one of his goons spotted Dang's bulging sack and whispered something in his ear. The captain's eyes shifted, staring greedily at the bag, and said he'd hook us up with Yangcheng's most elite unit, the 9 Underworlds Force. But only if we handed over every single crystal we had on us to prove our loyalty. Acting super thrilled by the offer, I closed the gap and stepped right up into his personal space. He was still running his mouth, bragging about the insane perks of joining his squad, while I casually gripped the hilt of my flame demon blade, flashing him a wicked grin. I can stomach a lot of things, pal, but I don't stomach getting ripped off. Hard pass on joining. In a split second, I cranked the flame demon to gear 1, the blade roaring to life with a fiery red glow. Leaping up, I brought it crashing down right onto his level 4 upgraded heavy truck. Between the 1500-degree heat and the absolute raw power I put into that swing, the guy's head went flying instantly as his body slumped to its knees. Beside me, Wang Chen went totally berserk. With one massive haymaker, he smashed a rock-solid tank straight into scrap metal, crushing the little scooter cyborg cowering inside into a pile of bloody mush. The rest of the convoy finally snapped out of it. 4 tanks frantically swiveled their massive cannons around, locking dead onto the 3 of us. If we were still on the main bridge, I might have held back a little, worried about breaking the bridge and ending up as fish food. But from this close up, tearing through these tin cans was absolute child's play. The cyborgs inside twisted their faces in pure rage, screaming at me to drop dead. I just sneered, brought up my armored left hand, and slammed it bare-handed right into the cannon's barrel. A muffled explosion rocked the air as the shell detonated right inside the chamber. Without missing a beat, I backhanded my flame demon blade, cleaving the busted tank clean in half. Over on the other side, Wang Chen was pounding the remaining tanks to dust with his iron fists. Then he whipped out his laser rifle, spraying wildly and mowing down every last cyborg still on their feet. Crouched by the edge of the bridge, Yi Dang aimed his custom sniper rifle skyward and pulled the trigger. Bang! He nailed the recon drone right out of the sky, sending it crashing down in a trail of smoke. "We gotta bounce, right now," he yelled. That drone definitely beamed the feed back to base. They'll be swarming us with backup any second. Sticking to the golden rule of never leaving empty-handed, I stripped every last crystal from the wreckage at lightning speed before making a run for it. Dang took up the rear, covering our tracks and keeping a lookout. Wang Chen and I tore down the highway side by side, going full throttle. It was only then that reality hit him, and he started totally losing it, cussing me out for dragging him into this mess, screaming about how insane we were to wreck official Empire military tanks. Normally, I'd be kissing the dirt when I see those things. He panicked. Now we're gonna have an army of hundreds of thousands breathing down our necks. I told him to chill out and breathe. The whole Azure Dragon Empire was already a complete dumpster fire anyway. Zhang Tianyan, the governor of Yangcheng, He's just another wannabe warlord trying to play king while the world burns. Chaos breeds opportunity, man. Every faction with an ounce of power is going rogue right now. They don't have the time or manpower to slap a nationwide bounty on us. Besides, we've got nothing left to lose, so screw them. We can vanish whenever we want. I don't give a damn about Zhang Tianyun's ragtag militia. Even if the actual Imperial Army stood in my way, I'd slice them to pieces all the same. Wang Chen turned totally white. He was freaking out, screaming that 100,000 strong army could drown us in spit alone. He barely finished the sentence when the deafening roar of attack choppers echoed from the sky above. The deafening roar of the propellers tore through the air. Yi Dang, who was covering our rear, gunned the engine to the max. He caught up to the two of us like a hurricane. His insane speed of 400 kilometers per hour made Huang Quan and me look like a pair of crawling turtles. Yi Dang was so terrified his lips were literally trembling. He stammered that we really screwed the pooch this time. Right on our tail were 10 fully loaded attack choppers, packed with missiles. I just gave him a look of total contempt. To me, those flying tin cans were just sitting ducks. Blasting one out of the sky with a single burst was nothing to sweat over. Yi Dang, looking like he was about to burst into tears, added that the ground was swarming with over 100 heavy-duty truck mechas, standing over 10 meters tall, and behind them was a squad of mini-bots packing rocket launchers. The moment Huang Quan heard that, he slipped and smashed right through the guardrail on the side of the road. He completely lost it, whining, "Man, we never should have picked this fight. Now we're definitely gonna get blasted into ashes." I ruthlessly snapped right back at him. "You were the one going the hardest just a minute ago. Don't act like a wimp now." It was obvious that getting on the highway was a total death trap. That robot army would run us down sooner or later. So, I made a split-second call to change our route and bolt toward the commander's platform on Whitehead Mountain nearby. The terrain there is insanely rugged. Once you scramble up a few hundred meters of steep slopes, it opens up into a massive peak. Beyond that peak are dozens of miles of endless primal forest, the absolute perfect spot for us to slip away. But right at that moment, the attack choppers hovering above us unleashed a barrage of missiles. Deafening explosions ripped through the air one after another, blasting huge, smoking craters into the ground. The three of us could only cover our heads, frantically diving and dodging through the rain of heavy fire. Yi Dang, abusing his insane speed, completely floored the gas pedal. He tossed out a quick "I'll go scout ahead," and vanished without a trace. I ground my teeth in sheer rage. I shifted into my mecha form, swung my armored left arm, and threw a massive punch straight into a falling missile. The brutal shockwave from the blast knocked me back several meters, sending sparks flying as countless metal shrapnel scraped across my chassis. Huang Quan and I seized the opening, grabbed our laser rifles, and unleashed hell on the choppers above. Those pilots never saw the counterattack coming. We ripped 4 or 5 of them straight out of the sky on the spot. The remaining choppers scattered like startled birds, terrified, and instantly pulled up to a safer altitude. They didn't dare to come even an inch closer. Using that precious window of breathing room, Huang Quan and I ran for our absolute lives toward the commander's platform. It wasn't long before, an iron army of over 100 heavy-duty trucks crashed onto the scene. Leading the pack was an 18-meter-tall blue heavy mecha. He glared at the scattered, burning wreckage of the choppers and lost his damn mind, screaming that they were all useless trash. He roared like a maniac, ordering his men to unleash every missile and cannon they had to blow us to pieces, no matter the cost. Up in the choppers, the regular army pilots turned pale with fury from the insults. They gripped their flight sticks tightly, harboring absolute disgust for this guy, Zhang Yanjun. As their squad captain, they despised him 10,000 times over. Before the apocalypse, this bastard was just some lowly, dirt-moving thug on a construction site. The only reason he got anywhere was because he had a fleet of heavy dump trucks. He kissed up to the governor to snag a high-ranking spot, and now he was actually out here trying to boss around real, formal soldiers. It was a total, humiliating disgrace to the uniform. Meanwhile, up in the pavilion at the peak of the commander's platform, Yi Dang watched Huang Quan and me scrambling for our lives. He gritted his teeth, leveled his sniper rifle, and took a perfect, dead-center shot. He instantly blew an attack chopper right out of the sky. Watching the smoking wreckage plummet to the earth, his hands were drenched in sweat. Looking like he wanted to cry, he mumbled, "Well, we are officially past the point of no return now." Before the apocalypse, he was just an honest civilian who had never even seen the inside of a police station. Who would have thought he'd be throwing down with the Empire's formal military today? Still, you had to admit, the insane thrill of cheating death was giving him a serious rush. Huang Quan and I practically coughed up a lung making it to the commander's platform. Right at the foot of the mountain, we shifted into our mechas and began a frantic, desperate climb. Behind us, countless missiles, rockets, and heavy machine gun fire rained down on us like an absolute storm. In just a few short seconds, this 1,000-year-old historic site was blown to absolute bits, with jagged rocks flying everywhere. Suddenly, a missile trailing white smoke locked right onto Huang Quan's back. I thrust out my left hand, my armor clamping down hard on that deadly missile. The massive explosion blasted right behind me. The brutal shockwave threw Wang Chen straight to the ground. I roared at him to go first and leave me behind. Just get over this mountain, and we're out of here. Wang Chen gritted his teeth, scrambled up, and made a mad dash for the peak. Meanwhile, up at the summit, Yi Dang's sniper rifle was like the Grim Reaper calling names. One shot, one gunship down. They just kept dropping from the sky. Down below, the commander, Zhang Yanjun, watched these priceless strategic assets crash and burn one by one, cursing his lungs out in absolute rage. He knew damn well that losing so many gunships meant he'd be dead meat when he reported back. Furious, he barked out an order. Over a dozen lightweight mechs carrying rocket launchers lined up in a row, aiming all their barrels right at the peak. They were going to carpet bomb the summit and wipe Yi Dang off the map. Yi Dang's eye twitched in pure panic. He screamed, "Captain, take care of yourself." He spun around and took a massive leap off the 100-meter cliff right behind the pavilion, plunging straight into the endless mountains. And almost at that exact second, over a dozen rockets slammed into the summit. That flat peak, roughly the size of a basketball court, was leveled to the ground in the blink of an eye. Wang Chen, who was still desperately climbing up, broke into a dead cold sweat. Thank God he hadn't made it to the top to get blown to bits. Meanwhile, halfway up the mountain, I had completely lost my mind in the bloodlust. The inferno blade in my hand turned into the Grim Reaper's scythe, erupting with a blinding, blood-red glow. Every heavy mech that charged at me got taken out with a single slash. I was slicing through them as easily as chopping vegetables. Over a dozen heavy mechs were slaughtered in seconds. The guys behind them were practically pissing their pants in terror, refusing to take another step forward. They couldn't understand. We were all heavy mechs here, so how the hell was I so ridiculously overpowered? Zhang Yanjun locked his eyes on the inferno blade in my hand, absolutely drooling with greed. This was definitely a godly weapon. He immediately ordered his rocket squads to hold their fire, terrified of damaging the precious blade. Then, he ordered his remaining troops to swarm me, trying to grind me down with human wave tactics. With the rockets finally holding their fire, the pressure on me instantly lifted. Under the cover of Wang Chen's laser rifle from above, I gasped for air and finally dragged myself up the mountain. Looking back, the path from the foot of the mountain all the way to the middle was completely littered with wrecked mechs. This was the terrifying power of combining heavy firearms with mechs during the early days of the apocalypse. If it weren't for those annoying gunships and rocket launchers, the two of us would have slaughtered our way through these 100-something heavy mechs a long time ago. Zhang Yanjun stood 100 meters away at the bottom of the hill, shouting arrogantly, telling us to hand over our weapons if we wanted to die in one piece. I glanced back at the dense, primeval forest behind me and let out a cold sneer, mocking him that his little squad wasn't enough to stop me. As soon as I dive into these deep woods, a massive army like his wouldn't even be able to maneuver. But Zhang Yanjun gave a sinister laugh and fired back. Did I really think he'd been dragging this out just to drain our stamina? My stomach dropped. I instantly knew something was terribly wrong. Down on the highway at the foot of the mountain, a massive army of nearly 1,000 heavy mechs came roaring in. Heavy trucks, excavators, dump trucks, you name it, they had it. These were the elites, handpicked from Yang Cheng's army of hundreds of thousands. This was the dreaded Netherworld squad. Staring at this dense, endless river of steel, even Wang Chen gulped hard. He tried to swallow his pride, and offered to pay him off in crystals to settle the misunderstanding. Zhang Yanjun glared at the mountain of dead bodies and wreckage, his face twisting in absolute rage as he roared. We had slaughtered so many of his brothers, and now we thought we could just pay him off with a few crystals? Not a chance in hell. Today, he was taking our lives in the blade. I knew the old dog had taken a massive beating. He desperately needed my sword just to save his own skin back at base. So, I just burst into manic laughter and challenged him straight to a gamble. No guns, no artillery. I'd stand right here and take on every single one of them in close combat. Wang Chen panicked and grabbed my shoulder tight, cursing that I was out of my mind, that staying behind was pure suicide. But Zhang Yanjun, terrified I'd back out, couldn't wait to accept the deal. He knew damn well we still had laser rifles on us. If they launch a full frontal assault, they'll be walking into an absolute bloodbath. And if they back me into a corner, I'll just destroy the damn god blade. Then this whole operation would be a total bust for him. But right at that moment, covered in dirt, Yi Dang actually came panting and scrambling up from the back of the hill. The crazy kid had already made it out alive. Yet some twisted sense of loyalty dragged him right back to fight by our side. Staring down at the thousands of heavy mechs swarming the base of the mountain, I looked them dead in the eye and said, "Even if we make a run for the mountains right now, these relentless bastards are bound to hunt us down. Our only way out is to hold our ground right here and bleed their forces dry. We drag this out until nightfall. Once it's pitch black, we disappear into the deep woods. They wouldn't dare turn on their headlights to chase us down, or they'd be sitting ducks for the iron beasts out there." I told Yi Dang to hand over the ultra-rare crystal dropped by that massive beast, and told him to grab Huang Quan and get the hell out of here. But Huang Quan didn't say a word. He just grabbed a handful of crystals, shoved them into his mouth to force charge his energy, and roared down at Zhang Yanjun. "If we're putting our lives on the line," he said to count him in. Zhang Yanjun glared at him, looking like he wanted to murder his entire family. He locked eyes with Huang Quan, and snarled through gritted teeth that absolutely no one was making it out alive today. Neither Huang Quan nor Yi Dang were willing to cut and run. So, since they were staying, we'd do it the old-fashioned way and fight to the bitter end. I swallowed down the boss crystal, rolled my shoulders, and cracked my knuckles. I screamed down the hill, "My name is Lin Qing, and I'm the one who's gonna send you straight to hell." Huang Quan and Yi Dang yelled out their names right after me. Down below, Zhang Yanjun's face went dark with rage. He couldn't care less about who we were. He just barked orders at his men, forming them up in waves of 300. To charge up the hill in relentless shifts. I let out a low growl, warning my brothers to brace for impact. Barely 15 seconds later, the first wave of mechs came swarming up like a pack of rabid dogs. An excavator mech, wielding a high-speed spinning drill on its arm, lunged straight for my chest. A drill like that could bore through tons of solid rock in a heartbeat. But I didn't even flinch or try to dodge. I just swung my armored left arm, and met it head-on with a devastating punch. The excavator mech was actually laughing, thinking I had a death wish. But down below, Zhang Yanjun's face instantly drained of color. He knew something was wrong. This mindless cannon fodder had absolutely no idea just how terrifying my left arm armor really was. With a sickening crunch that sounded like shattering bone, the excavator's drill, along with its entire arm, was instantly obliterated. Without missing a beat, I backhanded a brutal punch straight through its chest. As I pulled my fist out, I ripped the power crystal right out of its body, and swallowed it whole. The whole combo was buttery smooth, taking barely 2 seconds, seeing the rest of the mechs swarming in to rip me apart. I ripped out the hilt of the flame demon blade. The heavy truck mechs scoffed, watching me swing around a pathetic, empty hilt. They almost burst out laughing. But a second later, the furious dragon head of the flame demon violently erupted, blasting out a 26-foot-long beam of roaring, blood-red energy. The sheer, blazing heat instantly set the surrounding air on fire. The 4 heavy trucks leading the charge didn't even have a split second to react before they were sliced cleanly in half. Meanwhile, that sneaky bastard Yi Dang was like a ghost, darting out from the sidelines to expertly loot the crystals off the scrap metal. On the other flank, Huang Quan was fighting like an absolute god of war. His iron fists were unleashing hell. In less than 30 seconds, he had already pummeled 7 or 8 heavy trucks into a pile of twisted scrap metal. The two of us locked down the left and right flanks, defending the peak with everything we had. We didn't let a single damn one of them slip past. Every time my flame demon blade swung out, it completely vaporized several mechs at once. The ground was completely littered with severed heads and mechs that had been sliced clean in half. I slaughtered over 100 mechs in one relentless push, until my arms were burning so bad I could barely lift them. Yi Dang frantically scrambled over with an armful of freshly looted crystals, practically shoving them into my and Huang Quan's mouths to keep us going. Watching his terrified men stumble backward in sheer panic, Zhang Yanjun was so utterly furious he practically coughed up blood. He whipped out his pistol, screaming, "If any of you cowards take even half a step back, I'll put a bullet in your head right here." I swallowed down a few handfuls of crystals, glanced up at the fading sky, and warned Huang Quan. "Stop tanking them head on. In just over 10 minutes, once the sun sets, we'll dive deep into the mountains and let them catch absolutely nothing." Zhang Yanjun obviously saw right through my plan to stall for time until dark. He was absolutely furious, personally grabbing a massive battle axe and leading the charge up to the peak. I roared at Huang Quan, and we both whipped out our pitch-black laser blasters. Showing zero mercy, we unleashed a furious barrage of fire straight down the mountainside. Our relentless crossfire instantly shredded swaths of those heavy armored mechs. Zhang Yanjun ducked his head in a panic. Scrambling and rolling backward, he cursed furiously, screaming that I had no honor, whining that we agreed not to use guns. I just sneered and mocked him that all is fair in war and deception. Did he really think I'd be dumb enough to fight them hand to hand? The firepower of a laser blaster is way more terrifying than a fistfight. In just 5 seconds, we mowed down dozens of his guys. Zhang Yanjun completely saw red. He roared that even if they had to pile up bodies, they were going to push through these last few meters. This old bastard used to be a gangster back in the day, so he knew damn well that showing fear in a gang fight is a death sentence. If his hundreds of men swarmed us all at once, even God himself would get beaten to a pulp. Suddenly, Huang Quan's blaster was grabbed tightly by some suicidal mech with a death wish. Over a dozen guys instantly pounced on him like starving wolves, pinning him down. It looked like Huang Quan was going to meet his end right there. I bolted forward in a flash, swinging my blade and slicing off several of their heads. Feeling a vicious chill behind me, I didn't even turn around, I just threw up my left arm's armor to block the blind strike. With a deafening metal clash, my left arm dead stopped the massive battle axe Zhang Yanjun was bringing down on me. But in those mere seconds, hundreds of those mechs flooded the mountain peak like a tidal wave, surrounding us completely with no way out. I shot an icy glare at the enemies closing in, and roared at Huang Quan to get ready to fall back. Zhang Yanjun's face twisted in rage as he bellowed, screaming that after slaughtering so many of his men, not even heaven could save us now. Without another word, I cranked my flame demon blade straight into its maximum second gear overdrive. The 5,000-degree heat instantly turned the blade's glow into a dripping, blood-like dark red. The sheer, terrifying heat viciously warped the air around us. I spun around and lunged violently into the dense cluster of heavy mechs. Channeling every ounce of my strength, I swung my arm in a massive, sweeping slash. The length of the flame demon combined with my wingspan instantly carved out a terrifying, 17-meter radius arc of absolute death. Every single mech caught inside this fatal zone was sliced cleanly in half before they could even let out a scream. Blood-curdling wails echoed endlessly through the entire mountain. A massive, terrifying dead zone was instantly cleared out around us. Without hesitating, I pulled back my blade, and leapt straight down the steep, jagged slope. Huang Quan and Yi Dang were right on my heels, diving down into the drop right behind me. The surviving 9 underworld grunts who had luckily dodged death were so traumatized by that apocalyptic slash that their souls practically left their bodies. Not a single one of them dared to take even half a step forward to chase us. Zhang Yanjun froze dead in his tracks halfway up the mountain, gripping his battle axe. Staring at the gruesome bloodbath of severed limbs covering the ground, he trembled uncontrollably with absolute rage. The second my blade glowed red earlier, his veteran instincts from years of surviving on the edge kicked in, making him frantically dive backward just out of range. If he hadn't backed up that fast, he would absolutely be one of the mangled corpses littering the dirt right now. One of his terrified lackeys stammered, asking if they should still keep hunting us down. Zhang Yanjun shot him an ice-cold glare, before viciously swinging his heavy axe and directly chopping off that unlucky bastard's head. He then turned and screamed furiously at the remaining men, ordering them to clean up the damn battlefield and get the hell back. As night finally swallowed the sky, we completely vanished into the dense, primordial forest without a trace. Zhang Yanjun glared lethally in the direction we disappeared, cracking his knuckles tight with pure hatred. Clenching his jaw, he swore right then and there that he would make us pay this blood debt in full. Meanwhile, the three of us sprinted frantically through the woods, day and night, escaping to a small town hundreds of miles away. After running hundreds of kilometers through the entire night, the second we got there, I collapsed on the ground, completely drained. I was cursing up a storm in my head. Risking our necks for a single crystal was a terrible deal. If I had known it would bring down over a dozen armed helicopters and 1,000 mecha freaks on our heads, I never would have made a move. Thank God it was pitch black, and that bastard Zhang Yanjun was too obsessed with my flame demon blade. That's the only reason we barely made it out alive. Huang Quan was bitching non-stop, complaining about how he used to be a filthy rich kid, and now he's walking a tightrope over the Grim Reaper every single day. And on top of that, a wanted criminal. But Yi Da Ying, looking like a kid on Christmas, whipped out a plastic bag, practically bouncing off the walls, saying this gig was totally worth it. Holy crap, the bag was stuffed with 50 or 60 glowing evolution crystals, while Huang Quan and I were busting our asses on the front lines. This little sneak was scavenging the battlefield, scooping up a massive haul of high-tier loot. Every single one was top shelf, tier 2 evolution and up. There were even a few tier 4 crystals mixed in. Just this tiny little bag was easily worth more than slaughtering thousands of those standard metal beasts. Counting the ones Huang Quan and I swallowed during the brawl, we didn't just break even, we hit the absolute jackpot. Huang Quan, clutching his lower back that was totally chewed up by blades and bullets, started whining about how he was critically injured and desperately needed an energy boost. Seeing him covered head to toe in bullet holes and gashes, I generously tossed him 20 of the premium crystals. Yi Da Ying was drooling over them, but he knew he didn't do much of the fighting, so he was too shy to ask for a bigger cut. I didn't even hesitate, I tossed him 20 crystals right on the spot. The last 10, I swallowed down myself to keep in reserve. After all, the kid risked his neck bringing us ammo in the middle of that war zone. He definitely earned his keep. I've always played it fair and square. There is no way I'd let my own brothers bleed for me and walk away empty-handed. Once the loot was split, the three of us were so dead on our feet we could barely keep our eyes open. We found a decent hiding spot and passed out instantly. It wasn't until the next day that we finally shook off the exhaustion and started wandering around the town. This little city actually had a survivor base. We bumped into a bunch of mecha scavenger squads hauling supplies in the streets. But my gut was telling me something was way off. The way those tin cans were staring at us, it gave me the creeps. Their eyes were practically burning holes through us. It was this messed up mix of curiosity, fear, and a sick, hungry kind of excitement. Not wanting to stir up any fresh hell, I decided to just ignore the bastards. I figured we'd take the ring road and get the hell out of this dump. But of course, before we even made it to the highway, trouble came knocking. The deafening roar of engines blasted from right behind us. Over 200 of those mecha freaks swarmed in, completely boxing us in. A couple of the motorcycle punks didn't even hesitate. They whipped out their handguns and locked dead onto our skulls. The ringleaders, an off-road truck and a bulky bulldozer mecha, had the nerve to start haggling over our bounties right to our faces. They were literally screaming at each other over who gets what cut, finally hammering out their little profit-sharing deal. I just glared at these dead men walking. The arrogant pricks were acting like we were already corpses. The off-roader, getting a big head from his mob of backup, cockily ordered us to hand over what we took from Yang City, saying if we coughed up the stolen goods, he'd leave our corpses intact. The three of us just stared at him like he was speaking a different language. We had no clue what kind of bullshit this bastard was spewing. Then, that bulldozer guy, Old Dong, tossed something right at me. It was a crumpled up bounty poster. And slapped right on the front was a sky-high hit put out by Zhang Tianyun himself. The bastard claimed the three of us stole his legendary weapon, the Flame Demon Blade. The payout was absolutely insane. My head alone was worth 5,000 crystals. Huang Quan's was sitting at 3,000, and poor Yi Da Ying was worth a measly 800. But if they brought the blade back, that was another 5,000 on top. That was a grand total of 13,800 crystals. A fortune that massive was more than enough to artificially force the evolution of a fully mature mecha. Huang Quan took one look at the poster and completely lost his mind, swearing up a storm. But all he cared about was why his bounty was so much lower than mine. Meanwhile, Yi Da-ying was shivering, pouring cold sweat, whining that it was a total frame-up, just pure, malicious slander. I had to admit, though, the move was downright dirty. A massive bounty like this is way deadlier than any official arrest warrant. Money drives people insane. In this messed up, God-forsaken wasteland, there are a million desperate bastards who'd gladly risk their lives for a payout like that. And this mob of brainless, greedy thugs surrounding us right now? They were the perfect proof. The off-roader flashed a cold smirk and stepped forward, demanding to know if we were going to hand over the blade the easy way. Or they were just gonna rob us themselves. The safeties on dozens of those piece of trash pistols around us instantly clicked off, aiming right smack at my head and Huang Quan's. Huang Quan put on this whole pathetic, scared act. He lazily asked, "Hey, if we hand over the blade, can you guys cut us some slack?" The other side just laughed like maniacs and shut him down. They sneered that our 3 heads were worth a massive pile of cold, hard cash. There was absolutely no way they'd let us walk. Huang Quan nodded, pretending to have this big revelation. The very next second, his arm morphed into a massive laser cannon. He didn't hesitate for a split second, blasting away at the 200 or so cyborgs right in front of us. Seeing Huang Quan go on an absolute rampage, how could these low-level scrubs, who'd barely evolved once or twice, even stand a chance? One burst of that laser, and a huge chunk of them dropped like flies. Those cyborgs holding the pistols didn't even get a chance to pull the trigger before Yi Dang popped their heads off. One shot, one kill. In just 5 seconds, a crew of over 200 guys completely collapsed, scattering like rats. The ringleaders, that bulldozer and the off-road vehicle, saw the writing on the wall and tried to bolt. I lunged forward in a flash. My brutal whip kick cut through the air with a sonic boom. That off-road cyborg's waist armor caved in instantly. I literally snapped his steel body clean in half. Right after that, I took 2 steps forward, and a massive punch sent that bulldozer losing half of its damn body. As for those pathetic scooters trying to run away, and motorcycles, I couldn't even be bothered. Even if I caught them, they weren't worth a single dime. Yi Dang was already looting the bodies for crystals like a total pro. Huang Quan picked up a newspaper from the dirt, frowning as he muttered, "Zhang Tianyun's reach is way too damn long. He's even dropping papers out here? No wonder we kept hearing those choppers buzzing around all morning." I pointed at the corner of the paper and rolled my eyes at him. "Open your damn eyes and look. This is printed by the White Dove Group." Huang Quan muttered that the name sounded vaguely familiar. I told him it was that Everywhere Express delivery company from before the apocalypse. Now they're even running intel and media empires. Looks like they've really cemented their power. Huang Quan flipped through the paper carefully. He noticed that on top of our insane bounty, there were dozens of recruitment ads from all sorts of factions. There was even a guide on cyborg evolution from the Empire. His eyes went wide. Damn, this White Dove Group really knows how to make a buck. Anyone who can afford ad space here is absolutely rolling in cash. Even if the paper is dirt cheap, with hundreds of millions of cyborgs nationwide, if just 1 in 1,000 buys a copy, that's still an unimaginable mountain of profit. A near monopoly like this will absolutely make them filthy rich. Huang Quan looked totally stressed out and asked, "White Dove has crazy deep pockets and choppers everywhere. Our bounty is probably plastered across the entire empire by now. What the hell do we do now?" I stayed quiet for a second, then let out a cold laugh. Greed gets you killed. Honest to God, a bounty this massive? Even I'm tempted to turn myself in. With things like this, hiding isn't gonna cut it. Unless we want to run into the deep woods and live like savages for the rest of our lives. Huang Quan clicked his tongue anxiously, begging to know my game plan. I just smirked and brushed it off. It's simple. We kill the guy who posted the bounty. Boom. Problem solved. Yi Dang gulped hard, looking terrified. He stammered, asking what the hell I was actually planning. I said coldly, "I don't let my grudges sit overnight. If Zhang Tianyun has the balls to put a hit out on me, he better be ready for me to put him in the ground. We're heading straight back to ambush his ass." Huang Quan was so spooked his voice was literally shaking. He's the governor of Yangcheng, a total warlord with a massive army. Are we seriously taking him head on? I didn't hesitate for a second. Hell yeah, in this messed up apocalypse, if you want to survive, you gotta be more ruthless than the next guy. Sure, I don't have an army backing me up right now, but I've got the power to flip the damn board anytime I want. I've got nothing to lose. Why the hell would I be scared of him? Yi Dang meekly raised his hand. A major warlord like Zhang Tianyin is probably filthy rich, right? Let's not burn all our bridges. Why don't we just completely raid his crystal vault? You know, leave some room for peace later on. Hearing this, Huang Quan nearly choked on his own spit. These two absolute lunatics. One wants to assassinate the governor, and the other wants to rob the vault. And they call this holding back? They're literally going to bleed Yang City completely dry. Zhang Tianyin is gonna lose his freaking mind and hunt us to the ends of the earth. But, my eyes just lit up, and I actually started clapping and cheering. High risk, high reward, baby. Grinding monsters all day is nowhere near as fast as just straight up robbing the vault. It's settled then. Huang Quan coughed awkwardly, still trying to talk some sense into us. He thought this was straight up suicide, but I just casually dropped a line. Pulling off this one heist will give you enough to evolve one more time. The moment Huang Quan heard that, he instantly changed his tune and let out a massive swear word. Yelling, "Screw it, let's do this." No sooner said than done, the three of us immediately sneaked out of the small town. To avoid all the annoying creepy crawlies in the forest, we just hit the gas and bolted straight down the main highway. Right before nightfall, we made it back to the peak of the command terrace. I stared out at Yang City, blazing with lights a few miles away. In this pitch-black night, we'd be total sitting ducks. Huang Quan frowned miserably and muttered. Zhang Tianyin has way too many guys working for him. They could literally drown us in their spit. This job is gonna be a total nightmare. But Yi Dang's eyes darted around, hatching a scheme. He gave a wicked chuckle. Heh. We can just use someone else to do our dirty work and shift the blame. He suggested luring all the nearby steel beast packs straight into Yang City. Let those dogs tear each other apart. We'll sneak in during the chaos and completely empty out that crystal vault. But Huang Quan absolutely refused. He argued that Yang City still had millions of innocent civilians living there. If we actually lead a beast horde in there, God knows how many people will die. That's just too messed up. I just shook my head, telling Huang Quan he was seriously underestimating Yang City's defenses. Zhang Tianyin has hundreds of thousands of troops under his command, along with heavy artillery and combat choppers. A regular beast horde won't even put a dent in Yang City. I slammed my hand down and made the call. We were going with Yi Dang's plan. We lure the beast horde to the outskirts to stir up some massive chaos, and then we slip right in. As night fell on the second day, Huang Quan sneaked back to our spot on the hillside, just south of the city. He told me he dropped some serious cash to bribe an informant, and found out the crystals were stashed inside warehouse number 82 on Shengyuan Road. I glanced up at the pitch-black sky, telling everyone to sit tight and wait for Yi Dang's signal. It wasn't long before the deafening roar of a Kawasaki H2 completely shattered the silence of the night. Yi Dang was riding like a maniac, drifting wildly as he tore straight toward Yang City. Huang Quan stared at the dense, endless swarm of steel beasts right on his tail, and couldn't help but give him a thumbs up, praising his awesome work. You see, just to bait those mindless beasts, I had specifically gone out during the day and hunted down over 200 crystals, handing every single one over to Yi Dang to use as bait. Pulling off an absolutely gorgeous drifting fishtail, Yi Dang brought his bike to a smooth stop right at the bottom of the hill. He hopped off, panting heavily as he rushed over to us. Huang Quan laughed, slapping him on the shoulder and telling him what a killer job he did. You're getting a huge reward for this later. But Yi Dang just stared back into the distance, his face completely paralyzed with fear. His voice shook as he stuttered, I didn't do this. At that exact moment, earth-shattering roars erupted outside Yang City. An endless, massive wave of colossal steel beasts, stretching as far as the eye could see, were charging forward like absolute bloodthirsty maniacs. Yi Dang looked completely dumbfounded, swearing up and down that he had only tossed out a handful of crystals. But every single monster in the city sector just went rabid and swarmed out. Watching this endless, terrifying tide of beasts surging straight for Yang City, the stray cyborg bikers caught outside were literally scared out of their minds, scrambling wildly back toward the city gates to save